Shanae is wearing Rockets red. She knows it.
And sorry for a loss.
Katie said, we haven't even started, guys. Katie said he's the offense, right? I'm just going to look at Shump. Shump is the adult in the room, and that is saying something. But the offense was really tested on Monday. What adjustments do you want to see KD and the Rockets make here?
Well, for KD, I think it's knowing that double team's coming, or you might see it. Not having Goonie the other day, that kind of hurt him. I saw him doing. It wasn't that the turnovers that he was having. It was that they were unaggressive turnovers. Turnovers that had nothing to do with making a play. It's just trying to understand what to do with the double team. KD knows he should never have done that, but, at least he went in that press conference and cleaned it up. I expect a really aggressive start for him tonight.
Yeah, look, I agree, but KD also, he can't be the primary ball handler, right? Mm-hmm. And he got to put himself in position. Ime has to put himself in position and put him at that damn nail where he can't be double. If Ahmed Thompson and those guys can't bring the damn ball up, and just watch right here. Here you go right here, prime example. KD moving without the ball. Right here, the little drive circle action. All of a sudden he cuts, he gets to his spot right at the nail. He's knocking that down. And then we take another action right here. Set a little screen, fighting for position. All of a sudden, they set another one. He gets the switch. He plants his feet in the ground. And all of a sudden, you can't double right here. Nope. Look at the space.
Channel drill.
You got one man in the corner. Now, all of a sudden, KD go to work. Quick spin, rises over the top. He's 6'11", 7 foot, 7'1", whatever it is. And then this butter. So, again, stop bringing up the ball. They're going to send a double. They're going to fire every single time. Get the man at the nail and let him go to work.
But he also got to do the straight line drives. Like, even if you see a double team coming, I know KD knows. You see the double team coming, the closeout man coming, attack that man. Attack that man, Joe. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, come on.
I'm going to bring it both together because what you said, Shump, is so true. It's not just the double team. It's where you're getting doubled and the catch. Because Nikola Jokic, he always gets double teamed, but he's on the three-point line. On your plays, KD was on the three-point line before he was getting doubled. Once they bum rushed him at half court, that has to be an adjustment. Reed Shepherd, Ahmed Thompson, and then also, most importantly, Alperen Şengün. I was on SportsCenter when Tim McMahon shared that he's likely to play.
He's back.
Alperen Şengün, he is back. That's important because he can also bring the ball up.
Right.
But they just got to fight back. The Rockets have to fight back.
He provides an outlet for the double team, right? He's a good passer. He can make the next pass, and that's something that the Houston Rockets didn't have last outing.
Yeah, the biggest question was decision-making when KD released the ball, and it was just questionable. But Alperen Şengün, he is someone that we have compared to greats when it comes to passing. But on the other side, honestly, you guys, I was very impressed with the Lakers defense. Now, I know it's a small sample size, and we're seeing the guys warm up right now.
Yeah, this was today, and Alperen Şengün not on the injury report. So as Tim McMahon mentioned, good to go in this one. So it's good to see him out in that practice footage. But yeah, the Lakers side of all of this, they are on a 6-game winning streak, and we were talking about the fact that it's kind of a real winning streak at this point.
It's okay. So two things. One, defensively, this was impressive. Not only to force Kevin Durant to have 7 turnovers and have a strategy that worked, but over, I think, the last 10 or so games, the Lakers have had, I think, like the 6th best defense in this span compared to where they are in the year, which is 20th. So finally, they're getting the buy-in, not just when it comes to defense, but also it seems like they're kind of accepting their roles because they've shifted to where LeBron James has not really gotten to the last, 25 or 27 points. It's like been more 20, and that might be better for Luka and Austin Reeves.
Well, to be honest with you, JJ Redick is coaching his ass off. I give him a lot of heat, but I'm going to give him his flowers right now, too, as well. When you talk about guys buying into their roles, when you look at a LeBron James right now, he has accepted his role of being the 3rd primary ball handler to Luka and Austin Reeves. That's why he's leading the league in transition points, because now he's saying, you know what? Y'all handle the rock. I'm going to get out on the break and receive these outlet passes.
Who better to have receiving those passes than LeBron James?
Right.
And you know what I like about this? The question for the Lakers that I have, right? Of course, every time you see a run like this, you wonder about, okay, but how is it going to translate when it matters most? How is it going to translate to the playoffs?
That's the thing.
Right, and this type of mini-series where you play a team twice, back-to-back, I have questions about how their defense holds up in 4 straight games.
They'll beat them. The problem is they're still in the second round, and it's not a big knock on them because they're just looking up to OKC and the Spurs.
Hold on, Perk. Okay.
All right, let's get to some women.
Wait, but can we make a further assessment after this next game when Şengün plays?
Okay.
Thank you.
The next word has to be bet.
We don't run around.
Lakers can actually play a little more up-tempo if they're given the opportunity. We may see that against the Wildcats in this game.
Top 25 in the nation in turnover, defensive turnover percentage. The top 20 in the nation in steals. And so if Kentucky's trying to play chaotic, that goes very well for Santa Clara. That's the worry, is that it's not just about shot making for Santa Clara, which they do have. They are a very good defensive team with a different style than that, like St. Mary's, physical, slow, aggressive. They're getting deflection steals, full court press. They're out in passing lanes. They're trying to get up and go. You mentioned up-tempo. That doesn't come for them because they have to play fast. That comes from them on the defensive side, where they can turn defense into offense.
John, I'll give you final word before we move on here.
Scorer LeBron James as the third option. Not a role player, but the third option. This is the first time in his career that he's had 15 or fewer shot attempts in 7 straight games. But LeBron is thriving in that role. He's not a big player. He's averaging more than 19 points, almost 7 assists per game, shooting 57% from the floor in that stretch. Most importantly, the Lakers have won 6 of those 7 games. It's one thing to say he's bought in. For him to say it, it's another thing to show it. When LeBron's diving on the floor late in that win against the Nuggets for a loose ball, you don't have to wonder whether he's bought in.
You're right. And also, obviously, his experience of playing with the Heat, seeing what D-Wade did, taking the back seat, and that helped to lead them to a title. And also, the Lakers have been playing some defense. Let's go. Today, over the last 10 games, they ranked 6th in defensive efficiency. What's changed for them in that regard?
I think High Point's
Look, I was going to say exactly that,
really kind of changes the game. I think this could be first to 95. This is not your typical Wisconsin team. They have no problem.
That matters for their success moving forward. They finally got that necessary buy-in on defense. Now, we understand that this team is not going to go out there and look like the Oklahoma City Thunder that leads the defense in multiple categories, but they understand that right now, when they actually buy into the roles and the schemes, JJ Redick knows how to game plan, they can compete. Because offensively, we already know whether the game is clutch time, they're really solid there. You're seeing unselfish basketball there. I mean, you mentioned LeBron James diving on the floor. It was funny. He posted to Instagram, I think the little scab he had. He's like, I don't know if I'll be diving on the floor. But what I do know is he's going to be showing up in the help side and gathering rebounds. And the fact that he's locked in at the age of 41, that is contagious for the rest of the squad.
Also, I mean, they gave KD fits on Monday. They're doubling, blitzing him, fourth quarter. He was 1 for 5 in the second half. I mean, just terrible. He said he felt like he cost them the win. Tim, how much pressure is on him now as a primary ball handler?
I mean, 1 of 5 in the second half, and he said he felt like he was playing 1 on 5, the way that the Lakers were throwing a second defender at him and loading up behind that. And it's not the first time he's seen it. This has been a constant theme all season long. The Rockets struggling to close games, putting the ball in KD's hands at the top of the offense. Defense is forcing the ball out of his hands, and the Rockets falling apart behind that. And, you know, it reached a point where Kevin Durant the other night said maybe he just needs to get off the ball, let somebody else initiate the offense, go space the floor in the corner, maybe set screens, do something else. Now, the Rockets will have a key piece of their offense back tonight. Alperen Sengun, after sitting out Monday night with lower back pain, is off the injury report, will be back in the starting lineup.
Yeah, but still, I mean, we know there's no Fred VanVleet, there's no Steven Adams. All right, so let's talk about Sengun. Can he help KD tonight? I mean, what are you looking for from him, Chiney?
It's not the best option. This is not a someone that was built to be a point guard, but it is a solid option because if you think about the finish of the last game, the Rockets were in it. It just was that they couldn't buy a basket, and also Kevin couldn't really find his teammates. He had 7 turnovers. Alperen Sengun, ever since they realized that Fred VanVleet was not available, they've used him as one of those hybrid point guards. He might look a little unconventional. He might turn his back to the basket, bringing the ball up, but at least it takes some pressure.
Ok, perfeito. Vou escrever o texto completo agora, com apenas os temas dos Lakers. There is a version of the Los Angeles Lakers that everyone spent the first 4 months of this season insisting did not exist, could not exist, and would never exist, given the specific combination of offensive egos and defensive limitations assembled around 3 ball-dominant stars whose coexistence was supposed to be the interesting experiment that ultimately produced a familiar and disappointing result. And that version is currently sitting in 3rd place in the Western Conference, playing tonight in Houston for the right to claim the tiebreaker in a season series that determines playoff seeding. Having won 6 consecutive games against legitimate competition in ways that require different solutions on different nights. And it has a 41-year-old man who just admitted publicly that he is no longer the guy he used to be and that this team needs him to be something else entirely. A center who finally looked in the mirror after months of complaining about his role and said words that Suns fans and Blazers fans have heard before, but that Lakers fans desperately want to believe this time. A defensive leader who is talking trash and backing it up in ways that have quietly transformed the culture of an entire locker room. And somewhere in the Brooklyn Nets organizational files, there is a center on a $97 million contract who represents everything this roster currently lacks, and who a proposed trade would deliver at the cost of pieces the Lakers could afford to move. And then, sitting completely outside all of that basketball conversation, there is a viral social media post claiming the Lakers signed LiAngelo Ball, a man who retired from basketball last summer to pursue a rap career, which tells you everything about the level of attention this team is generating right now and the specific kind of chaos that surrounds any franchise operating inside the gravitational field of the largest basketball market in the country. Every single one of those threads is alive tonight. Every single one of them matters. Hit that like button right now, because we are about to walk through all of it, and not one piece of it is going to land where you expect it to. So let us begin talking firstly about the game tonight, because the context surrounding it is the foundation upon which everything else in this discussion rests. And understanding the stakes requires understanding what the first game between these teams established, and what the second game can cement or destroy, depending on which version of the Lakers shows up at Toyota Center. The Lakers won Monday night 100-92 in a game that looked ugly enough from the outside to make neutral observers question whether the 6-game winning streak was built on something real or built on the specific combination of home court, favorable scheduling, and the kind of opponent self-destruction that does not repeat reliably across multiple games. Austin Reeves went 0 for 8 from 3. The team shot 23% from beyond the arc. Houston committed 24 turnovers and still made it competitive enough that the final margin felt more fragile than the score suggested. And yet the Lakers won, moved a game and a half ahead of the Rockets in the standings, and shifted every ounce of psychological pressure onto a Houston team that played on its own floor against a short-handed opponent and still could not close the game. Kevin Durant came out publicly after the loss and said something that deserves to be absorbed carefully before tonight's tip-off, which is that he personally lost that game, that he is the offense, and that he needs to be smarter, better with the ball, and more willing to operate as a spacer and screener rather than demanding primary possession every time he crosses half court. That is a remarkable public admission from a player of Durant's stature and competitive pride. And it means two things simultaneously. First, that Durant tonight will arrive motivated and recalibrated in ways that make him more dangerous than he was Monday. And second, that the Lakers' game plan of doubling and trapping him relentlessly worked so thoroughly that even Durant himself validated it as the correct strategic approach. JJ Redick now faces the most interesting tactical question available to a coach during a 2-game road series, which is whether to maintain a scheme that Durant has publicly promised to adjust against, or whether to introduce wrinkles that account for his recalibration while keeping enough of the original structure to force Houston into the same decision-making chaos that produced 24 turnovers 3 days ago. The Lakers need to win tonight to clinch the season series tiebreaker. If records are identical between these two teams in April, tonight's result determines who hosts and who travels when the playoffs begin. That is not a procedural footnote. That is the specific kind of competitive detail that championship organizations treat with the seriousness it deserves. And the degree to which the Lakers approach it with that seriousness is the degree to which what they have been building during this winning streak is real rather than circumstantial. I believe the smart money says the Lakers maintain their defensive identity while making adjustments that account for Durant's stated willingness to operate differently, and that Doncic and LeBron find the offensive efficiency that was absent Monday. Because a team cannot shoot 23% from 2 games in a row against the same opponent and expect the result to look as comfortable as it did the first time. Now let us talk about the transformation that has made all of this winning possible at a level of analysis that goes deeper than box scores. Because LeBron James has done something in the 3 games since returning from injury that his 22-year professional history did not fully prepare anyone to expect from him in this specific and public a fashion. And the degree to which it has changed what this Lakers team looks like on the floor is so dramatic that JJ Redick said it out loud before Monday's game without any apparent concern for how it would land. Redick told reporters that the best thing for the team is LeBron being the 3rd highest used player, which is the kind of statement that a head coach makes about a 41-year-old 4-time MVP, either when he is completely confident that the player agrees or when he is willing to accept the consequences of the player not agreeing. And in this case, the evidence suggests the former rather than the latter, because LeBron has been demonstrating the agreement through action rather than requiring the verbal contract to carry the weight alone. In his 3 games since returning, LeBron has taken 13 field goal attempts per game, which represents a meaningful reduction from his season average and an enormous reduction from the 19.2 attempts per game he averaged across his 8 previous Lakers seasons. And he has been efficient in all 3 games, shooting 7 for 13 from the floor each time in a pattern of consistency that suggests this is a deliberate and sustainable approach rather than a hot shooting stretch masking a reduced role. The diving on the floor for the loose ball against Denver has become the symbolic moment that people reference when describing this transformation, and it deserves to be recognized as symbolic, because it captures something specific and important about what LeBron is doing this year that is genuinely unprecedented in his public career narrative. Superstars at the end of their careers historically do one of 2 things. They fight to maintain their primary role until the performance gap between their stated importance and their actual contribution becomes too embarrassing to sustain. Or they announce a graceful step back that lasts approximately until the first playoff game where they decide the team cannot win without them taking over. What LeBron is doing is a 3rd thing that is considerably rarer and considerably more interesting, which is buying in completely and demonstrably at both the statistical and the physical sacrifice level, and doing it at a moment when the team is winning, in ways that validate the sacrifice rather than requiring him to tolerate losing as the price of selflessness. The timing matters. Winning makes sacrifice feel like strategy rather than concession, and the Lakers are winning, which means LeBron's version of the 3rd option role is being reinforced by results rather than merely requested by a coaching staff and left unvalidated. Thinking about this carefully, the most interesting question surrounding LeBron's late career transformation is not whether it is authentic, but whether it sustains itself when the playoffs arrive and the margin for error compresses to the point where his competitive instincts begin transmitting the familiar signals about needing to take over. And that question is one that only the postseason can answer definitively. Now, while LeBron is making his peace with a reduced offensive role in ways that are quietly revolutionizing this team's competitive identity, there is a player who has been operating alongside him, whose impact on the Lakers' current trajectory cannot be measured in field goal attempts or efficiency ratings because it operates primarily at the level of culture and competitive character rather than box score, production, and that player has been the subject of exactly the kind of undervaluation that tends to happen when a player's most important contributions are the ones that do not appear in any statistical category. Marcus Smart told ESPN's Dave McMenamin this week that the team is tired of hearing people talk trash, that he personally is tired of it, and that if you have any competitive spirit at all, then you want to prove those people wrong. And that statement is not the kind of thing that generates a highlight clip or a trending topic on social media, but it is precisely the kind of leadership communication that changes how a roster collectively approaches its own standards. Smart said before the season even started that the toughest team sets the rules, which is the kind of declarative organizational philosophy that either gets proven right by events or gets forgotten entirely. And what the current 6-game winning streak represents is the first sustained body of evidence that the toughest team philosophy has moved from Smart's words into the team's actual competitive behavior. The defensive rating improvement from 116.6 before the All-Star break to 112.1, since it is the statistical fingerprint of a team that has internalized something about defensive accountability that was not present earlier in the season. And while that improvement reflects coaching adjustments and player development and favorable scheduling, it also reflects a competitive standard being maintained through the pressure of a veteran who has won a Defensive Player of the Year award and 3 Hustle awards, and who does not accept the difference between effort and results as a permanent condition. Look at what happened with DeAndre Ayton specifically, because Smart's influence on that situation is more direct than most analysis has acknowledged. When Ayton was struggling with his role, Smart publicly defended him to the media and told reporters that Ayton does hear the criticism and is trying his best to respond, which is the kind of locker room advocacy that veterans extend to struggling teammates when they believe the struggle is temporary rather than fundamental. Whether that advocacy contributed to the mindset shift that Ayton subsequently described is impossible to prove definitively, but the correlation between Smart's public support and Ayton's subsequent performance evolution is not something that should be dismissed as coincidence. Because DeAndre Ayton deserves his own examination at this particular moment, and the examination needs to be honest rather than simply celebratory. Because what he told The Athletic this week represents either the most important development in his Lakers career or the most predictable script in his professional biography, depending entirely on whether you have been paying attention to how this particular story has unfolded at every previous stop. Ayton told Dan Woik that he started looking in the mirror and telling himself that he is not the guy on this team, that he does not need to be demanding touches and operating as a primary option, that the Lakers brought him here to be the effort guy, close out possessions, rebound, run the floor hard, and make the stars work. Those words are exactly correct. They describe precisely the version of Ayton that this roster needs and that the evidence suggests he can be when his mindset is aligned with his role. The problem, and it is a problem that both Suns fans and Blazers fans are uniquely positioned to articulate from direct and painful personal experience, is that Ayton has said versions of this before, and the commitment has historically lasted until the first extended stretch where he is not involved in the offense and his frustration overrides his stated philosophy. Phoenix heard about Ayton's motivation and commitment when he signed his extension in 2022, and the subsequent behavior that led to his trade was not the behavior of a player who had successfully internalized the message he delivered publicly. Portland heard about his willingness to embrace a new role, and the subsequent inconsistency in motor and body language was chronicled in detail by reporters who watched it play out in real time. The Lakers are hearing it now in March of 2026 at a moment when the team is winning, and the emotional environment is positive, and the reinforcement structure makes bought-in behavior easier to sustain than it will be in a playoff game where the ball is not going to Ayton and the defense is loading up on Doncic and the game is being decided by possessions that do not involve the center at all. JJ Redick telling his team to treat the final stretch like a playoff atmosphere has clearly landed with Ayton in a way that the earlier portions of the season did not produce. And the fact that he is showing encouraging moments of willing rebounding and defensive effort, even when the offense is not flowing through him, is genuinely promising. But the honest assessment is that encouraging moments in March under favorable conditions are a necessary, but not sufficient condition for believing that Ayton has completed the mindset transformation he described. And the playoffs will be the first genuinely challenging test of whether the mirror conversation produced lasting change or temporary compliance. Now here is where the conversation about Ayton connects directly to the larger organizational question about what the Lakers need to become in order to compete for a championship rather than simply compete in the playoffs. Because the proposed trade involving Nick Claxton from the Brooklyn Nets addresses the center problem from a completely different angle than hoping Ayton's mindset shift is permanent. The proposal put forward by Bleacher Report's Greg Swartz involves the Lakers sending Dalton Knecht, Jared Vanderbilt, and a projected 25th overall first-round pick to Brooklyn in exchange for Claxton, who is averaging 12 points, 7.1 rebounds, 3.9 assists, and 1.2 blocks per game on a 4-year deal worth approximately $97 million. The case for Claxton is straightforward and compelling in the context of what Doncic specifically needs from a center, because his time in Dallas demonstrated repeatedly that his pick-and-roll operation reaches its maximum efficiency when the rolling big is a genuine lob threat who defends the rim and does not require offensive possessions to justify his presence. Claxton is 6'11", holds a block per game, leads the league in field goal percentage during his best seasons, and has the combination of rim protection and lob finishing ability that makes him the specific type of center that creative playmakers dream about playing alongside. He is also a substantially better passer than Ayton, averaging nearly 4 assists per game this season, which means he can participate in the offense as a decision maker rather than simply a finisher who needs to be found by others. The fit next to Doncic and Reeves and LeBron is not speculative. It is the kind of basketball geometry that produces immediate and visible improvements the first time the pick and roll is run with a center who actually rolls, rather than settling for the elbow. Brooklyn, sitting at 17 wins and 51 losses and approaching the end of a competitive rebuild that has not produced the results the franchise hoped for when it assembled its current roster, has every reason to move a veteran center on a significant contract in exchange for the young player and draft capital that a rebuilding organization can use. Knecht, as a 24-year-old former 17th overall pick, represents exactly the kind of developmental asset that rebuilding teams value, and Vanderbilt provides veteran experience alongside a contract that makes the salary matching workable. The Lakers would emerge with a center who solves the specific problem that Ayton has been unable to fully solve all season, and the offseason architecture would shift from hoping Ayton's mindset conversation sticks to having the structural piece that turns this roster from a talented collection of players into a genuine championship threat with the right defensive anchor at the 5. Whether Rob Pelinka pursues this or a similar transaction with the urgency the current winning streak demands is the organizational question that will define this front office's legacy far more than the result of any single regular season game. And then, sitting completely outside all of that strategic analysis and all of that competitive pressure and all of that legitimate basketball conversation, there is the LiAngelo Ball situation, which is not a basketball story, but a media and cultural story that says something specific and revealing about the level of attention this Lakers team is generating right now. A satirical account on social media posted that the Lakers had signed LiAngelo Ball to help Doncic and LeBron James, and enough people believed it quickly enough that it became a news item requiring a formal debunking. For those who have not been following LiAngelo's professional trajectory, which is a perfectly reasonable choice, LiAngelo Ball retired from basketball in August of 2025 and has been pursuing a rap career under the stage name G-Lo, having released a viral single called Tweaker in early 2025 that debuted at number 29 on the Billboard Hot 100 and led to a record deal with Def Jam worth up to $13 million. He never played a single minute in an NBA regular season game. He spent time in the G League with the Greensboro Swarm. He is the middle ball brother between Lonzo and LaMelo, and his basketball career ended before it fully began, which is why the idea of him helping Doncic and LeBron compete for a championship is the kind of premise that functions as comedy, precisely because of how far removed from reality it is. But the fact that people believed it long enough to generate significant social media engagement and require formal correction tells you something about the specific psychological environment surrounding this Lakers team right now, which is an environment where the winning streak and the momentum and the attention have created a collective readiness to believe almost anything about what the organization might do next. That readiness is both a compliment to what the team has built during the current streak and a reminder of how quickly it can be redirected toward absurdity when the algorithm finds a sufficiently entertaining target. The Lakers are good enough right now that people are paying attention to every roster move, every name associated with the franchise, and every development in the Western Conference standings with the specific kind of sustained interest that only competitive relevance generates. Tonight in Houston is where the relevance gets tested again, and the answer matters more than any satirical tweet ever could.